Hey there. So, software job interviews usually involve some sort of coding challenge. And basically, in this coding challenge, the company is going to ask you to solve a simple problem and use a program to code that problem. And we'll go through an example here today. And I think coding challenges are really good because sometimes we can have a good resume, but you can't really program. Well, I mentioned this in one of my previous video, but we had a candidate who he had a really nice resume. He mentioned all the programs that he built and all these projects. Then we thought we were gonna hire him, but then we gave him this coding challenge, and we were kind of shocked, like how he couldn't code some simple things, and maybe he was just nervous. But we had another guy come in. He didn't really have a really good background. I mean, his resume wasn't really that impressive. I mean, he just graduated from college and he had some basic programs and projects in there. But we were really, at least for me, I was really impressed with how he coded this simple program. And basically, what the program was, it was to it was to give a sequence of Fibonacci sequence, and I was impressed. So when when my company asked me, so what do you think of this guy? I told him that, yeah, I think he's good. And he actually did some good work for us. So coding challenges, we need to practice them if we're going to do some interviews. And I think it will be really helpful for you even to just get better at programming. My name's Henrik, and I'm here to teach you how to program your own applications, stress less, build more, save time, and improve lives and the lives of others. All right. And if you're new to programming and you're looking into how to code and you want to get into the tech industry and get a software job, I've got a programming guide for you. It's called my Personalized Finance App Programming Guide. Basically, in this guide, it's a free guide, by the way, and it's a step-by-step guide, and it teaches you how to code your first app from zero experience to coding your first app. It's really simple, really practical, and it gives you how I would think about the way I would think about if I was to code this. And basically, in this application, you would take your credit card transactions from your credit card company. It's just a simple file, and then you can use this program to categorize your transactions into different budget categories, so you can see how much you're spending. And I thought this would be a fun project, and it was a fun project for me. I did this for my own personal finances, so I could make my own personalized finance app. All right, so you can download it in the link in the description, and if you download it and pay attention to what it says, you'll definitely learn some fundamental programming concepts. All right, let's get into the challenge. So this comes from Daily Coding Problem, and Daily Coding Problem, it's a website where you can put in your email, and then they'll send you a coding problem every day. And this one is supposed to be an easy one, so let's get into it. So here's the email that I got. It says, "Good morning. Here's your coding interview problem for today." And this was recently asked by Google. So given a list of numbers and a number k, return whether any two numbers from the list add up to k. For example, given 10, 15, 3, 7, and k of 17, return true since 10 plus 7 is 17. And then bonus is, can you do this in one pass? All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to code this in Visual Studio Code. You can download this from the internet. I'm going to code it in C because that's the language I'm most comfortable with. So include stdio.h, and then I'm going to do int main void, and I'm just going to do a simple hello world program. All right, let's run it. All right, there it says hello world. Okay, now let's go to all right, let's look at the problem again. And it says something that stands out to me. It says return true. And when I see those words, I automatically think of a function. So we need to create a function that returns true given these inputs. The way I see it is these are two inputs, and then return true, or you return some sort of boolean like a true or false. So let's put that in our code. So let's just call it int challenge void, and then return 1, or return 1. So this will return true, and basically, so we need to execute the function in our main function. So int return value equals 0. Okay, and then we have to call the function at some point. So return value equals challenge. And then I'm gonna put a statement here saying return, and then return value. Okay, so let's execute this. Okay, so it returns 1. 1 means true. All right. Now if we change it to 0, it should return 0. And it's returning. Oh, I didn't save it. Okay, let's do it again. All right, return 0. Good. So that means whatever we return here is executed and the value is shown through this print. All right, so let's go back to so I created the function. Now it's returning some true or false. I can return true or false, whatever I want. Okay, 0 will stand for false and 1 will stand for true. All right, now let's go back to the screenshot. Oh, let's go back to the email. Okay, now they gave us an example, and I think we should just try to get the example to work first. It's easier to code a problem when you have an example to work with. And I think it's hard. It's gonna take more time if you're gonna code this on the spot in front of somebody. If you start thinking abstractly and you're also nervous during the interview, that will cause you to waste some time. So I would just use the exact examples here. So we have a list 10, 15, 3, and 7. That's a list of integers. So let's put the list up here. Int list equals 4 is equal to 10, 15, 3, and 7. And then we have int k equals 17. So I think something that for me, when I would see this problem and I was new to coding challenges, I would be thinking, oh, how do we input this into the program itself? That's one of the things. Like how would the program get the list and the number? And the coding challenge doesn't really specify how the person gets the list or the number. And I think that's an added level of complexity to the problem. So I think we should just make it simple and just pretend that the list is inside the program and the number is inside here, and then we can figure out later how the program is going to get those inputs. So let's just assume that they're in here first and get our function to work with this list, and then we can worry about how the program is going to get those values later. Make sense? All right, so we're going to have to look at all the elements of the array and see whether or not they add up to k. Whether any two numbers from the list add up to k. So that means we're going to have to iterate through this array. Let's use the ones that actually add up to 17. So that's 10 and 7, right? So that's 0 and 3, index 0 and 3. So I'll say if list 0 plus list 3 equals k, then return 1. Okay, so it returned 1. That means the arrays are properly set and the k is properly set. Like, say we were to do 2, this should be false. Alright, great. We're making progress. And that's because 2 is referring to 0, 1, 2, that's 3 and 10. But if we were to make k 13, for example, then that should return 1. Yeah, good. Okay, now we're going to have to iterate through the array. So we're going to use a for loop. I think we're going to have two for loops for each of these numbers. So let's create another one for the first one and another one for the second one. Well, actually, let me just make these things more explicit for you so that you understand what I'm doing. Let's put I here. Basically, what this for loop's going to do now, it's going to add 10 plus 15, and if that's true, it's going to return. If it's going to equal 17, then it's going to return 1. So it's just going to go through each of these numbers, but it should not include the first element. Okay, my assumption here is that you're only going to have to add 2 numbers. You're not going to add the same number to itself. We should start with 1, so because we want to start with this one, and then we're going to go add up all of these, and it should return 1 because 7 is in there. So 10 plus 1. So as first, what it's going to do is going to do 10 plus 15 and compare that for this if loop. Then the next time it goes in, it's going to do 10 plus 3, and then it's not going to go in this if statement. But then when it gets to 10 and 7, then it's going to go into this if statement and return 1. So let's run it. Okay, so it worked. Let's say we were to use 6. Okay, it returns 0. Okay, so it seems we're making progress. So we're making some progress. All right. Okay, so I think for this list we want to compare 10 plus 15, 10 plus 3, 10 plus 7. Then we want to compare 15 plus 3, 15 plus 7. And then we want to compare 3 plus 7. And if any of those add up to 17, then we return true. So why don't we just explicitly write that out in our code? I think the for loop is not. I think we eventually need a for loop, but I think it would make it more simpler if we just spelled it out first. So let's just write all the comparisons. 10 plus 1, 10 plus the first element plus the second element, and then we do 2 and then 3. Some people might criticize me for this, but I think it helps explain my thought process, and it's easier to code this way. It's a lazy way to code. Okay, so I think this will do it, right? This will compare all the numbers. So this will be 10 and 15. Now we can start thinking about for loops. So if we look at our numbers again, how can we replace the if statements? How can we reduce the number of if statements with a for loop? All right, I think I see one. There's 1, 2, 3 right here. So we can do a for loop. Start with 1. All right, let's put this in here. You can just put I in here, and then okay, that reduces it. Okay, so it still works. Let's see if we change this number to 9. Is it gonna work still? No. Say we kept it 9, but we made 7 over here. Okay, it works. Okay, so our code is still working. Now how can we shorten this even more? I see another for loop we can put. We can put another for loop here. But so it's gonna only go from 1. It only goes 2 to 3. So we do 3. And that's gonna compare. That's gonna handle these two cases. 1 and I. Oh, we have to do 2. We can actually do a print statement here so we know for sure that we're adding the right indices. So we got 10 plus 15, 10 plus 3, and 10 plus 7. But we also, where's the other for loop? We need to include the other for loop. Oh, it's because it returned here too early. Let's just comment it out first. So does that have all of our combinations? So 10, 15, 10 plus 3, 10 plus 7. That's the first for loop. Then we have 15 plus 3, 15 plus 7, which is the next one. And then the last two is 3 plus 7. Okay, so we still have all the additions together. Okay, now the tricky part is we want to combine this for loop and this for loop with this last one. We want to get rid of the numbers themselves because we don't know how long the list is. Maybe the only assumption we can get is the number 4 because we know how long the list is, so we can put how long the list is in here. But for example, we don't want to have the 0 here and the 1 here. Okay, so I see 0, 1, and 2 here. Maybe we can combine these 3 and using another for loop. So the first time it will be 0, j will be 0. That was our first for loop earlier. Then it's going to replace this one. Okay, but then we need to add this by j plus j. Because then this for loop needs a 2. So in the second iteration, we want 1 plus 1, which is 2, which will give us this number. Then 1. So in the second iteration, 1 is j. J will be 1. J is 1, j is 1. So when j is 1, it encapsulates this case. And then we have one last case, and j will be 2 in the second case, and this will be 2. I is going to be 3, so we'll encapsulate this case too. Okay, let's see. Let's run it and see what happens. Okay, so we get 10 plus 15, 10 plus 3, 10 plus 7. Then we have 15 plus 3, 15 plus 7, and then 3 plus 7. All right. Okay, I think this solution is already pretty good. And you might be able to just turn this one in. So if you just we can just do this, and then maybe we were to say 5, because we don't want to just have this working for one example. Let's try another example. Then we would need to update these numbers, right? Alright, let's see if it actually compares all the numbers. 10, 15, 10, 3, 10, 7, 10, 0. 15, 3, 15, 7, 15, 0. And then 3, 7, 3, 0, and 7, 0. Okay, so that actually works. Now you just add the 1 in there, and it would finish when it equals 17. So 10 plus 1 is, 10 plus 7 is 17. So you return 1 at that point. You don't continue the array searching. So I think this solution is already good. You could probably pass with this. But let's see, how can we make it better? I'm really curious. I kind of want to make it better. Let's try a different number. Let's see if it's 19. Does any number in here work? Should return 0 because none of these numbers actually return 19. But if we make this one 9, then it should return true. And it does return true because 10 plus 9 is 19. All right, so it works. Okay, let's go back to see how can we make this better. If we go back to the question, it says here, bonus, can you do this in one pass? I'm kind of intrigued. I kind of want to do this in one pass. So if we're going to do this in one pass, we have to get rid of one of the 4 loops. So is that possible? Can we get rid of one of the 4 loops? Basically, we only have one line that we have to worry about, this line. And we kind of want to see, can we use just one variable in both spots instead of 2 variables? Because if we look back to the output, we actually have one. If we're going to do this in one pass, we have to compare 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have to make 6 comparisons, which is basically, is it 4 factorial? No, it's not 4 factorial. We're going to do 6 comparison with 4 numbers. All right, so I think this is the best I can do for now. Maybe if I have more time to think about it, maybe a couple of more days, I can come up with a better solution. But yeah, so I think this is one way you can solve the problem, one way you can do the challenge, and see how it really makes you think about the question, and it starts you to think how you can code things more efficiently. And before I end, I want to also point out you can actually go online and type in this question. That's what I did earlier this week. You type it in, and here's one that I found. Basically, if you type in the question, you can see a lot of people have already tried to answer this question. So there's a question again. Someone had asked it 4 years ago, and it was viewed by a lot of people. And you can see all the kinds of answers that people gave. Some people have really complicated answers. Some people have some really simple answers. Oh, some people have a proof. So you can actually learn a lot from doing a coding challenge, and then you can see like how did other people try to answer this question. Look at this one. This one's really simple. Another one that I found when I was doing a Google search. Here's another one I found. This person also did it 4 years ago, and they also used the for loop. It's kind of similar. Oh wow, it's actually very similar to mine. So he had a return value boolean and then list, and this is the list that's inputted in K. And then he also had 2 for loops, and then he just compared I and J and then returned true. Returned true when it was true, but his length, he just went through the whole list. Mine doesn't go through the whole list. It goes through a smaller sub list. And basically what he did is he used that as one of his arguments in here, and then his 17 was there. All right, so I hope that was a really good exercise for you. It was really fun for me. And if you had some other ideas, feel free to leave your idea in a comment below. I'll read them, and maybe you can improve on what I did. So I'd love to see what you guys thought. And if you're still learning how to program, you're doing these coding challenges, and you want to build your first app, you can download my programming guide, my personalized finance app programming guide. And I think if you download the guide, and you can learn some ways that I think about how to program this application, it'll give you more ideas on how you can program your own applications. And I think this is how you get better at programming. You have a project, and then when you have that project, it gives you more motivation to program. And then as you do that program, you get better at your programming language, and that's how you learn. So if you like this challenge, give a thumbs up and let me know if you really like this. If you want me to do more content like this, let me know, and I'll try my best to serve you. All right, have a good day. See ya. Peace.